say everything wrong with it.
Okay.
Oh.
That was obvious.
Judge ready?
Oh, shit.
Partner ready? Opponents
Time.
ready?
No, wait, no.
No?
Yeah. Time.
We will wait until everyone is ready.
Ready.
Okay, is everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, time to start on my first word. Westboro negates the resolution that in the United States, collegiate student athletes should be classified. Sorry, should not be Okay.
No, hey, no. Hey, you're in 10 seconds.
Avi?
Okay, I'm gonna start.
You can't do that in a row.
Alright, okay. Time starts on my first word. Westboro negates the resolution that in the United States, collegiate student athletes should be classified as employees of their educational institution. Contention 1 is paying for it. Firstly, as Editorial 21 reports, only about 25% of the 1,100 NCAA members, schools' athletics departments generate a profit. Therefore, this is simply unfeasible to pay athletes when schools themselves are already losing money. Colleges are left with two options. As Krupnik 14 finds, changes to how student athletes are paid could lead to some schools stuck with nowhere else to turn to raise other students' fees. Universities and colleges could also scale back on their athletic programs to cut costs. However, we can look to the past to determine what will happen. Past presidents show that when a school faces financial struggles, they cut programs. As OPT21 finds, for the 300 teams in an analysis that were recently cut, 2018 to 2019 federal data for each intercollegiate program indicates that more than 5,400 athletes were members of those teams every year. The impact is cutting programs. Wood 22 furthers that by paying student athletes, other programs in the school that don't bring in as much money will be erased. Even the bigger schools in the NCAA won't be able to play every single player and keep up financially with other sports programs, resulting in them being cut off. Also, if a university starts paying student athletes, it could negatively affect other sports programs. There would not be enough funds to pay every single student athlete equally and to be able to keep every single sport. The smaller sports that do not generate enough revenue to sustain the program would definitely get cut. There wouldn't be as much opportunity for everyone if we paid our student athletes. As Lawrence 21 explains, colleges are not swimming in money. This would affect more than just the student athletes. The athletic department could possibly crumble, and the smaller sports would be no more. Nicole 24 reports that the NCAA head warns that 95% of student athletes face extinction if colleges actually have to pay them as employees. Due to financial problems, we have seen colleges do it, and by paying athletes, this problem will be exemplified. With a catastrophic change this drastic, colleges will struggle financially, leading to cuts in programs and eventually harming the athletes it aims to help. Contention 2 is amateurism. Currently, the status quo allows college sports to thrive. Colleges with lower revenues can compete against colleges with higher revenues, as salaries are not a key factor when athletes decide. However, as PEG 21 reports, if college athletes were to get paid, then large, well-funded schools, such as those of the Power 5, would be best positioned to acquire top talent and gain a competitive advantage. Furthermore, as Troll finds, if all of the richest schools were able to pay their players, their teams would be unstoppable. This would leave teams without a good salary cap in a bad position for their program. Moreover, assuming a free market system, the chasm between haves and have-nots would widen even further. Universities best positioned to pay athletes top dollar would win bidding wars and recruiting battles against institutions with limited budgets. Athletic competition nationwide would suffer as a result, says Drostowski 23. Therefore, rich schools would benefit continuously. As Pam and Twin E16 says, wins equals cash for as many collegiate football teams. In fact, a single win during the football season could mean as much as a $3 million increase for some top schools. Less established football teams saw a monetary increase due to invitations postseason bowls. The impact of smaller schools shutting down. 4 and 23 finds that paying athletes would undermine collegiate sports and could ultimately lead to the collapse of sports programs across the United States. Recruiting would not exist anymore. This would lead to big schools becoming powerhouses, and many donors and recruits would only want to go to those schools because they would be paid significantly more money. As a result, the smaller Division II schools could disappear simply because they cannot compete with the amount of money that the bigger Division I schools have, says Lawrence 21. Judge, this is detrimental, as Division I schools only make up about a third of the NCAA. This means that the other two-thirds may cease to exist. Furthermore, not all Division I schools will pay their athletes the same. Many public schools, even within its division, will not be able to compete with larger private schools that get billions of dollars in donations and tuition. Chaos is what is ensured to happen by affirmative action. I have 7 seconds left. By affirmative action, as this resolution in practice would have catastrophic consequences for the schools and the athletes. With a carefully crafted college sports system hanging in the balance, we strongly encourage a negative ballot. Thank you.
I think her time started on her first word. Are you guys ready? Are you guys taking prep?
No.
Okay, then you might
Oh,
wish to.
my bad.
Pro team, who's going first?
Me.
Okay. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Alright, everyone is ready. Is my partner ready? Alright, this time we'll start on the first one.
Please stand up.
Wait.
Please stand up.
Cool.
Alright, time to switch on my first read. We affirm the resolution that in the United States, collegiate student athletes should be classified as employees for their educational institution. Contention 1 supports students. Bunjavani 20 states 86% of collegiate athletes live below the federal poverty line. The money provided from these schools would be very impactful, helping these students get out of poverty. Moreover, these low-income families, as Digest 20 claims, are more attracted to sports such as football and basketball, and these sports subsidize money-losing sports which are often played by more affluent athletes. To quantify this, Digest 20 furthers. The average revenue for the football and basketball athletic department stood at $125 million, up 60% from a decade earlier. The surge in proceeds from football and basketball more than offset a 71% decrease incurred by non-revenue generating sports. These sports are generating millions, yet as Merrick 20 reports, for every additional $1 that came into football and basketball, only 31 cents were reinvested into these sports. Indeed, Keener 20 states that this shifts resources from athletes that come from poor families to those from richer families. However, paying these athletes effectively changes the flow of money from these athletes, generating millions of dollars for their schools straight into their paychecks rather than into the pockets of others. Additionally, Patterson 23 shows Division I athletes spend 2% of their time a week at a job. This is equivalent to 3.4 hours and roughly $25 at a minimum wage. Furthermore, if a college athlete was to spend those 35.4 hours working at a federal minimum wage, they'd have an extra $1,000 a month. This extra money they could be making would pull students out of poverty and greatly help them. The sport is preventing them from making money, and they should be compensated for it to help bring them out of poverty. Impact 1 brings them out of poverty. According to admission site Poverty can significantly impact their academic performance, mental health, and future prospects. These students lose their ability to do well in school, and their health suffers. May 22 writes, poverty can harm improvised college students' interpersonal interactions, physiological health, and life satisfaction. The poverty these many students face result in devastating effects on their life. Clement 22, a study of about 1,500 athletes at a large public institution in the United States revealed significant negative impacts of poverty on college athletes. These athletes experience a loss of wage, job offers, and internships due to business closures during the pandemic, leading to a heightened food insecurity and generalized anxiety. Henceforth, by giving these athletes the money they rightfully deserve in a pro-world, they are able to stop being continuously exploited and get themselves out of poverty. Attention 2 is mental health. As Ms. 24 currently finds, rates of mental illnesses have been a large problem among collegiate student athletes. As the study finds 25% of student athletes have reported severe symptoms of depression, and almost 50% have reported feeling anxiety. Moreover, according to SFLA 23, research indicates that a significant number of athletes experience mental health challenges, with financial stress playing a significant role. Impact is suicide. A recent study revealed that 1 out of every 10 collegiate athletes reported considering suicide or suicide ideation within the past year. Moreover, suicide is the 4th leading cause of death among student athletes in the NCAA. The 2020 decline in suicide is just the latest evidence that proves that poverty drives suicide. In recent years, researchers have found that suicide rates are the highest among poor people. We can look to the past precedent to prove that paying people does in fact reduce these suicide rates. During COVID-19 checks from the government, indeed reduced suicide rates in spite of the isolating effects of the pandemic. Green 21 states poverty dropped in the U.S., and despite all the grief and isolation, suicide rates dropped with it. Stimulus checks are a one-time direct cash payment of $1,200 per person plus $500 per child. This has been correlated with lower suicide rates, and student athletes are no different. Judged by voting for Pro, we are not only voting to improve the quality of life for these athletes and lifting them out of poverty, we are also voting to reduce the rates of suicide among these athletes. Thus, we strongly affirm the resolution.
We're going to take 10 seconds of prep.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Okay.
Yo, wait, why is this so scratchy?
I know, I'm
Okay, so that's 10 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, wait, actually, we're going to take 2 more seconds.
No, I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sit.
Do we have to sit? I like standing.
This
Okay,
is
fine.
aggressive though.
That's fine. Okay, that's fine. Judge, ready?
Yes.
Wait. So we took 10 seconds. I'll just
Yeah,
note
I
that.
shared a
Photo.
It doesn't have much on it. Oh, I didn't put any.
Okay. Can we get first question?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right. So, how do you plan on paying for it? How do you
Paying
plan
for
on
what?
paying for the student athletes? Do you know how much it would cost? Fine. Let me reword my question. Do you know how much it would cost for the NCAA to pay all of their students?
I do not know.
Okay, so it is $7 billion. And do you know how much the NCAA makes on a yearly basis?
No.
They make $1.3 billion.
Okay.
So how is it feasible?
By cutting down coaches' salaries and also like stopping
No,
so much money
no.
into.
$1.3 billion, that is a revenue of, hey, are you paying attention?
Yep.
Okay, $1.3 billion, that is the revenue of, yeah, that is the gross revenue after all tax cuts, after all salary, before anything. Before any tax cuts, before any salaries, that is what they're earning from, like, I guess, like the college students playing games. That is how much they're earning, and then they're just losing more money after paying.
Okay, so to answer your question, you said that it's $7 billion to pay the athletes, right?
Yes.
Well, according to my sources, PBS 23 finds that D1 Sports generated $15.8 billion in 2019.
Can I see that card actually?
Or actually,
I'll
I'll
do it.
cross.
Okay.
Sorry. We can provide you with a card that says in 2023, which is more recent, the NCAA only made.
Okay, sure. Can I ask a question?
Of course, go for it.
Alright, so you said that good players will only want to go to these big schools, right? Like,
Okay.
because they'll be being paid, right?
Right.
But isn't that non-unique? Because it
No.
happens in the status quo, because big players want to go to the bigger D1.
Right, and it'll just be even more, Judge, this will just be even more exemplified in a pro world. Because
We
when
look
these,
at the judge when
Yeah.
you do cross.
because in a pro world, these bigger schools will be able to afford to pay these athletes more money when they're being recruited. So therefore,
I got my answer to your question.
Okay, I have another question. So you say that by paying student athletes,
Yep.
so in speech, you say that currently poor, is that cross? Sorry. Poor people tend to play football and basketball, which are higher generating
Yeah, yeah.
sports. So you say that you're gonna change the flow of money, but how? Because by paying athletes, the flow of money isn't going to change. Smaller athletes are still going to be paying for the bigger athletes.
Okay, let me just pull up my case real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a question? You want to answer that, or?
Can you repeat it?
Of course. Okay, so you say that the flow of money is going to change from poorer people in the status quo, that you're going to say it's going from poorer people to richer people. But if you're saying that poor people are playing these bigger sports that generate revenue, how is the flow of money
Okay,
going
so
to
right
change?
now we're saying that that's unfair, right? That these poor people playing the football and basketball.
Right, because wouldn't that just be worse in a pro world?
No, because these athletes would be getting paid for. In
Right,
a
but-
pro world, they're getting paid to play their sports, which will help them.
Right, but they're the ones generating.
Yeah, they're generating the money and
That's
they're getting
gross.
paid for it. That's what we're trying to do. Okay.
Calm down.
We're gonna take some practice.
Okay, yeah, well,
We've taken 10
10
seconds.
seconds. 10 seconds. Okay.
Nice to block.
Oh, crap, I floated in the wrong spot.
Ooh.
The second contention is kind of rock solid. You find your sponsors for that.
So these are the same.
What?
So they said that so they don't want to play in big schools because it'll be paid. It'll be paid more. So we're saying.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they already want to do it.
What did you respond?
So I'm gonna ask the question. She just said it'll be worse. But like, it can't be worse. They don't want to go to big schools anyway. So you are not looks for sense speaker. What do you mean? Sorry.
And then, how much time?
Oh yeah, a minute.
Okay. Do you want more?
No.
Okay. That was a minute.
Okay.
And yeah, just be like,
What?
you know what I mean.
Alright.
Oh, and then be like,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Maybe some sports.
Is my partner ready?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are my opponents ready?
Yeah.
Is my judge ready?
Judge.
Ready? Judge, we strongly encourage a negative ballot, and here's why. Firstly, my opponent's first argument is about getting people out of poverty. However, they don't actually take into account what this means. So the poverty line for a single person is $15,000. Multiply that by the 525,000 NCAA student athletes, that's about $7.8 billion. However, the gross revenue in 2023 by total NCAA was only $1.3 billion. This is before any kind of payment to these coaches, the million, whatever they said in cross. This is before any kind of taxes, before anything. It was 1.3 billion. That's not even close to 7.8 billion. Therefore, this is not even a feasible argument because you can't get them out of poverty. Secondly, what college student isn't in poverty? College students aren't making this immense amount of money, whether they're in athletes or whether they're in athletics or whether they're not. College students tend to live like that because they're getting education. And they aren't making a very stable income. So this is not actually like specific to athletes, it's just all college students are living in this kind of conditions. Furthermore, my opponent's second argument is mental health. However, this can be exemplified because firstly, these athletes will have to play much harder to actually maintain the money they're getting by getting paid. They have to actually work much harder to stay on the team and to get more money. Therefore, this actually worsens their mental health because they're going to spend more time on this. They're going to be more stressed about the games because they have much more pressure to do well because number one, colleges are depending on that money to pay the athletes, and if they don't win, they aren't generating revenue for the schools, and therefore that's actually worse for their mental health. Now, furthermore, it's also not unique because my opponents say that financial stress is a big part of student athletes' stress. However, I agree, but there's so many more factors that play into this, like games. These athletes are working so much. As they say, they don't have a lot of time. Therefore, these athletes are not good. This isn't solving the problem because their stress is gonna increase. Now, let's talk about their impact on suicide. So they say that 1 in 10 people consider suicide. That doesn't necessarily talk about how many people are actually doing it. They say it's the 4th leading cause of death among student athletes, but they can't provide you a number. How many deaths are actually being caused by this? They can't tell you that. So therefore, we don't know because not a lot of student athletes die because they tend to be more healthier than normal people. Now, secondly, they don't tell you, they don't actually say like what this money will be necessarily spent on. They can't say it's going to be spent on food or anything. When these athletes are put under so much stress, they could be spending on drugs and alcohol, and there's no guarantee that they wouldn't be. And this would put them into a further spiral, thus bringing them to a situation where they could be down that road for the rest of their lives. Therefore, by paying them, you're basically giving people who are already under so much stress a chance to get even more stress and a chance to go down a really dark path. Let's talk about weighing. So their first impact, number one, it's not feasible. Number two, it's like it applies to every single college student and not just athletes. But even if we wanted to talk about that, these athletes are getting scholarships. The NCAA actually requires the colleges to pay at a minimum of 25% of their entire tuition fee, including housing and boarding. Therefore, when these athletes are actually much better off than normal students, and so they might not be getting jobs, but they're getting housing and food. And their example on the food insecurity was because of COVID. Yeah, everyone faced struggles in COVID. It wasn't just athletes. They just tell you it was just athletes, but no, everyone faced struggles in COVID. There were so many people left unemployed. And obviously colleges weren't generating revenue in the time because no one was going to college games because it was COVID. So, therefore, when weighing, there's only one case that actually flows through clearly, and that is the con side. We're telling you 95% of athletes will lose their position, not losing their scholarships and whatever they do have right now. Therefore, I encourage a negative ballot.
Okay, perfect.
Pro team, how much time you need?
We're taking a minute.
I'll go down my flow too. Yeah. Are you guys ready? Okay. Judge, are you ready?
Yes.
First, I'm going to be going down, frontlining our case, going down their case, and then mine. So to our case, you guys stated that helping them won't get, giving them the money won't get them out of poverty, but this money will greatly help them. And one of our sources says that 86% of the people are not in poverty, but their families are in poverty. So this money will help them, and giving them this money will help these families. And you guys stated to our case that all college students are in poverty, but you stated no evidence for that. And we stated that these families are in poverty, and the money will help them. Additionally, you guys stated that giving them the money will create more stress on them, and they won't be generating money with the loss, but they will still generate money for the school for playing, and there will be more stress for them giving money to their family and helping their family. Additionally, you guys stated that these students will start using drugs and alcohol, but you stated the outrageous 18% that colleges devote to lavish facilities, and the other 35% that's given to the coaches could be redistributed to these students and greatly help them. Additionally, you guys said that programs would be cut, and the colleges won't have to pay for all of these athletes in these lower revenue generating sports. The colleges won't have to pay for these students, as that is not the resolution. They'll generate money from this football and basketball, and if they can, they will be able to pay these students. And out of that 15.8 billion, you guys stated that 7 billion will be needed to pay for the students, and they have the revenue to pay for these students, which can be taken out of the coaches, as a coach has stated that as John Harbaugh has stated, that he is willing to take less money to give his players a share. So these coaches are coming forward saying they will take less money to give these players a share. And out of that 35% that's being reinvested in these coaches, much of it could go to these students. Additionally, you guys stated that these students are going to go to big schools and because of the money that they will be getting. But this is non-unique, as these students are already going to these big schools and are chasing these bigger schools, as they do get NIL deals and more money from going to these bigger schools. So that argument is completely non-unique. So the impact should be negated. Additionally, in their case, they stated that one win can earn them up to $3 million, which may be true, but this is only one singular bowl game, and not all games will be creating this much revenue. Additionally, we outweigh you on lives, as this mental health is killing people, which is much more impactful than any of your impacts, and bringing students out of this poverty and helping them pay for their families and give this money, that 86% of these people's families are in poverty. Giving them this money will greatly help these students and their families, which has much more far-reaching impacts. And this mental health is causing many deaths. It's causing numerous amounts of deaths, which lives are the most important things. So we outweigh them on magnitude, as lives are much more impactful than any of their impacts.
Carl? Oh yeah. Are you guys ready for Carl? Money to their families. Is that what you're saying?
Because getting these students out of poverty will also help their families.
How? Because they'll be able to pay for their family. But if they're making $15,000 a year to get themselves out of poverty, how will they have any money left over to give to their families?
They can help their family with the money they're getting.
But that won't get them out of poverty, right?
Okay. Wait, can I have a question?
Oh, that was Carl. Partner? Judge? Cool. Alright.
Okay. No. Judge, we strongly urge you to vote a negative ballot. Firstly, their case is entirely impossible and improbable, as we've repeatedly shown you that it will cost the NCAA $7 billion to make sure, for all their athletes to be above the poverty line. And we have also shown you that in 2023, compared to their stat in 2019, that the NCAA only makes $1.3 billion every single year. This is simple math, and they provide zero response in their rebuttal. Therefore, their entire argument can be simply disregarded. They say 15.8 billion, but then again, this is an older stat. We have provided you a newer stat from 2023 that says that the NCAA only makes $1.3 billion every year. Next, their second argument about mental health is completely non-unique, as my partner says in her rebuttal, that when college students are given money, that there isn't any guarantee that collegiate students are going to use them for the wrong reasons. But my partner has shown you that student athletes are using the money for drugs and alcohol in the past, alcohol. And in the past, drugs and alcohol will only lead to worse mental health. This is a simple fact. Therefore, in a pro world, their mental health argument can completely be disregarded, and therefore their entire link chain can be fully gone. Their suicides are completely a probability. They say that they might save lives, but it's all a full maybe. You can't be making your ballot off of a simple maybe. There is a precious collegiate athlete system on the line. They also provide zero solvency, and I mean no solvency for any of their arguments, and we have proven you that in a pro world, all of their arguments will just be worse. Moreover, they say that 86% of families are in poverty. However, their own card says that they live in poverty and they're not from low-income families. Therefore, logically, their entire arguments just don't make sense. Judge, going back to first cross, when I asked my opponent Avi, he completely about the flow of cash from poor to rich, they completely dropped their argument, and in fact, they agree. Now, moving on to our case, really everything from our case really just flows through because they don't respond to anything. Arnav talks about the $3 million per game in his rebuttal, but it's a completely invalid attack, as a football game is still part of the NCAA. Then he says that our case is non-unique. However, this is completely infallible because in a pro world, all of their problems become exemplified and therefore worse. In this round, only one case flows through clearly, and that is con. They provide no responses to any of our impacts, and now that its first summary is almost over, it is far too late. We tell you that 95% of athletes face extinction if athletes were to be paid, and they provide no response to this. So even if their impacts were to be true, only 1/20th of the collegiate student athlete population would face these impacts. And we also tell you that 2/3 of the NCAA, I know I'm a little bit over time, but I'm going to finish my sentence. 2/3 of the NCAA will face extinction. Judge, therefore, you need to vote a negative ballot.
Are you guys gonna take Brad?
Yes. We'll take Arnav. How much time do we have left?
We took a minute.
You took 20 for crossing. 20? You took cards. 11 for the first, 7 for the second, so 18.
Okay. And then how much did you take?
18 plus 106.
How much did you take?
124.
So, okay. Alright, basically. I'll take running.
You got it. Okay, so there, with impacts can be reached, we stated that this plan can the impacts can be reached could be such as must become from other sources. Yes, they won't have to pay out athletes, so they will have to pay. We state that since we didn't provide reasons, say when we state on the cross just ask them, the students are already paying for their school. Just say that.
The money's coming from other places. The money's coming from other places.
So they can't reach their impact, and also colleges won't have to pay all athletes for the entire program. They've taken money from the coaches and given to the students, so they don't have to cut any.
Okay, so okay.
Bro, why did you say so?
That was 1 1 minute 15.
Okay.
No,
We have,
like
no, we have
10
like
to
15 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, so.
like 10 to 20.
I can't see it very fast. I think it's all different.
No, just say like I'm gonna fund line that respond.
Oh, shoot, I didn't.
So just as an off-time roadmap, I'm first gonna.
Don't say off time with that.
Why
It is an
not?
off time road.
It is an
Sounds
option.
stupid though.
Okay, I'm first gonna, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna frontline our case, then go down their case, and weigh at the end if I have time. What? Okay, time starts on my first one. Judge, my opponents fail to mention that lower income black athletes are subsidizing sports such as tennis, which the other wider communities are playing, which is completely unfair. Why should lower income black athletes who are making all the money have to give their money to keep these sports alive? It's an unfair system, and they should get to keep the money that they are bringing in through their hard work and talent. Them not responding to this shows that they in fact agree that this is completely unfair, so black athletes should be paid for their hard work. Also, you say that smaller D2 schools could just cease to exist. However, this isn't backed up by any evidence. Judge, they say that smaller school sports will be cut, but we tell you that you don't have to pay all the athletes, so cutting programs is unnecessary. Also, they say that the entire college will get shut down. However, this is completely unfeasible since they say that they will shut down since they cannot compete with bigger D1 schools since they don't have the money. However, this is completely unfeasible since the worst thing that will happen is the sports program shutting down, and we have just shown to you that that will not happen. And the worst case scenario is the sports programs will shut down, the college will still thrive. Just the sports program will be shut down. That is worst case scenario. We already tell you that this will not happen. Also, only 2% of athletes go pro, and with so many of them being in poverty, they need a substantial source of income that they can rely on in order to put food on their plates, not only for themselves, but for their families back home as well. Okay, we win on magnitude since people are dying is more impactful than any of their impact, since once a life is lost, we cannot get it back. It is irreversible. Lives over money. Also, all of their impacts are unreachable since their impact on cutting programs is, we've already proved that it's wrong since you don't have to pay all athletes, so the NCAA in fact can give enough money, do have enough money, and college athletes also need to have a source of money that they can rely on since so many of them are in poverty and they just do not have money to rely on right now since scholarships and NIL deals do not suffice. Thank you, Judge, for your time.
Sorry, were those new arguments
Whoa,
that I
whoa,
heard?
whoa, one sec, one
Second summary?
Yeah, are you guys taking prep for cross? Are you guys taking prep?
Sorry, are you guys taking prep? Is that prep? Is that prep?
No, no.
No, we can't.
No.
Are you guys taking prep?
In our-
Guys, are you guys
Hey,
taking
no.
prep?
no, we're not doing that.
Alright. So, wait. Go for it.
Okay,
Since we went first, can we ask
So-
this question?
yeah, let's recap to first cross. Okay, so you said, huh?
A little aggressive.
I'm sorry,
Can you
sorry, I'm
tone
so
it down a
sorry.
little bit?
Okay, can we restart cross?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Okay, so let's recap the first cross, alright? So when I asked you that so you, in case itself, you say that lower income athlete, sorry, people that
Higher revenue sports that have more low-income families, the money that they generate tends to go to non-revenue sports played by higher
Yeah, they're
income.
being subsidized.
Yeah, but like, don't you agree that problem would be exemplified because you also have to pay the higher income athletes? You can't just pay some of them and be like, no, we're not paying you up.
No, so
So where would the money to pay the higher income athletes come from? Because you do have to pay them. That's not an.
it's just going, so basically in a pro world, it's just the poor paying the rich.
Again, and
Yeah.
they get some kind of problem. They get some kind of money.
Yeah,
Don't you?
you're just.
So how would that?
Yeah,
How
in
does
your
that
world,
actually
you're
solve
making
the problem?
Yeah, you're
And
in
not
your world, you're just making your problem worse. Anyway,
We asked, we asked, how does that actually solve for the problem and not just make it worse? That's the question.
Giving the money to the richer athletes.
No, is that your question?
No, our
No,
question is,
okay,
okay, so your flow of money
You're
is...
sorry. Can I you're saying that you're going to change the flow of money. You're going to say, okay, now that the black athletes are going to be paid, it's suddenly fair. But
These rich white athletes are still going to have to get paid. And if
Yeah.
they're non-revenue generating sports, that revenue is going to come from the low-income black families regardless. It's just more money going to them.
so you're okay, and then you're saying if everyone doesn't have to get paid, then you're saying that you're cutting programs.
No,
Which
no,
is
no.
Our
Not-
contention.
Yeah, that's what we're
These,
saying.
these students don't have to be paid, so there's no need to cut the program.
Why don't they have to be paid?
Because that's not part
That
of the
isn't
program.
that
The
unfair?
entire resolution is
Only the
collegiate
athletes
athletes.
not
that are
generating
generating money should
But
be
no,
paid.
it's collegiate athletes as a whole. It's not
It
essentially
should be.
some
It's not-
athletes
yeah,
come
give
here.
employment that-
Some athletes get paid,
But
some
isn't
athletes
that
don't.
unfair? Like if you guys are preaching fairness, then isn't that just unfair?
No, but these,
No.
Sorry. Okay, we spent 2 minutes. If you guys want a question.
you guys stated that in our card that these students are not of lower income families,
Yeah.
but it says that many of these student athletes are being pulled from
This is
low
not
income
card
homes.
reading card.
No,
you stated it, you
I
stated
can do it. So basically, your card is citing a study. When we went onto that study together on your thing, it
Yeah.
said people are living in poverty, not that they're from
No.
families living in poverty.
They're
Would you
not low
like? Would you like to check the card?
In the card, it said that these student athletes are being pulled from low
We
income
can do
homes.
this after cross.
Yeah,
I'm
but we
just-
can
I'm-
recheck the card
I'm
if you'd
just
like.
clearing it up.
Okay.
Because it's citing a study, and the study showed that, and they're just rephrasing it.
Okay.
Another question.
Yeah.
Sorry, son. Do you think 95 is more than 5?
Is that the
That-
question?
that is-
That's the question.
Is
Do
it?
you think 95 is more than 5?
I think there's a clear answer to that, so I will not answer.
That's cross,
So you
guys.
think-
That's cross. I'm gonna do final focus.
We only have
We have 15 seconds. We'll just take the rest of our time.
I gave you 2 different colors.
Essentially, it's just what. Yeah, just like, and then just like restate whatever I said in here.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you say how we deal with this?
Okay, that was our prep. Is my judge ready? Are my opponents ready? Is my partner?
Yeah.
Judge, we strongly encourage a negative ballot, and here's why. Firstly, my opponents dropped half their arguments and then brought it up in second summary, and also brought in new arguments about black families, which was actually not mentioned in their case. Furthermore, they also bring up money, how NILs and scholarships are not enough, but they also don't say that in their case. And secondly, they concede the argument that it's not feasible, because in summary, they dropped their argument on the $15.8 billion, which is in 2019, and as we already said, this is from a much newer source. The NCAA only makes $1.3 billion, which is not nearly enough to actually get people out of poverty. Furthermore, this actually delinks their entire first contention, as their impact is not possible, and secondly, they're in cross and in rebuttal. They were like, it'll help the families. However, we proved that they're not actually from low-income families, but their source quite literally states a study, and that study said that 86% of people were living in poverty, not that they came from low-income families. There's a clear distinction there. Now, let's talk about our case. So we first tell you that these sports will be cut, and my opponents only say that this won't happen and they won't have to get paid. However, you can't just pay some athletes and not pay the others. They also concede the argument that the flow of money will actually become worse, as you have to pay these rich athletes more. You still have to pay the rich athletes, whether they generate income or not, because they are collegiate athletes, which is the resolution. Therefore, this problem just becomes exemplified. Then let's talk about their second argument, our second argument, amateurs, and we say rich schools are going to get worse. They say it's already happening through NIL deals and it's not unique. However, we're saying it'll be exemplified to another thing. They say our card doesn't have any, we're not backed up. We give you a clear card that says these Division II schools will cease to exist. Now, let's talk about the second impact on mental health. We tell you that this problem will be exemplified. They provide no actual response to this. We tell you that financial stress may be one big deal, but it'll get worse as these college students either have to spend it on drugs and alcohol, or they're going to have to spend it, or they're going to have to work harder to keep the money that they're getting. Therefore, we strongly encourage a negative ballot. It's okay.
10 seconds. Yeah, 15. Actually, no, it's 20.
Yeah, and have it. Oh my god, I forgot that.
just take the rest of it. Should respond to that. It's not needed. This way.
Okay, yeah.
First, I'm gonna send our response to their case, then frontline our case, and
So we stated.
I'm not ready.
Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Judge.
You said no.
First, I'm gonna frontline our case. I'm gonna extend our responses to their case, frontline our case, and then what? So in their case, they stated that there's not enough money to pay for these schools, but as we stated in our case that there's $15.8 billion of revenue that these schools are generating, and these coaches are getting 35% of this, and lavish facilities are getting 18% of this. And as we stated before, Jim Harbaugh came forward and said he was willing to take a pay decrease so he can pay for his collegiate athletes. So these coaches can pay, and they will pay, as he's come forward to say that they will pay. Additionally, this resolution does not say that colleges won't have to pay for all athletes. So these other sports that are non-revenue generating these students won't have to be paid. And these non-revenue generating sports are played by richer athletes, and they won't have to be paid. And that completely delinks them to their impact, as there's no need to cut these other sports and get rid of these 5,400 athletes. There's no need to cut these sports, as these colleges don't have to pay these athletes, so there's no need to cut the sports. Additionally, they stated that these people will be more willing to go to big schools, but currently these students want to go to these big schools more, as they will be getting larger NIL deals and they want to go more. Additionally, you guys stated that our card does not refer to low-income homes, but as I stated in Cross, it does directly refer that these students are coming from low-income homes. So that point should be negated. And we outweigh them on magnitude, as these lives are being lost, and these lives are much more important than any of their impacts. And as my partner stated, the worst case scenario is that these programs are cut, which is nothing compared to these lives. And these students don't have to spend on drugs and alcohol, and will spend it on these families. So our impact on lives is much greater, and getting these students out of poverty will have a much greater and far-reaching impact, as they will be able to help their families than the worst case scenario of these programs being cut.
Great. Good on you guys.
Thank you, Judge.
Is that the money that is generated by these low-income athletes go to the high-income athletes, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't the problem be exemplified, as these high-income athletes still have to be paid?
Wait, so we stated in our case that this money is going from the low-income athletes to these high-income athletes?
You said, okay, I'm going to pull it up for the sake of this, or do you want?
Just
All right,
tell me what
so
it is.
you said,
No, for the sake of
for the sake of it, you say that this money subsidizes the money-losing sports, which are often played by more affluent athletes, and then you also further on into as it lets the rich stay richer, and shifts resources from athletes that come from poorer families to those coming from richer families.
So if you're saying that poor athletes are paying these higher income generating sports, then why wouldn't
This problem be exemplified.
exactly why wouldn't it just be worse in a pro world?
Okay, so we're saying that it's unfair that these poor athletes aren't getting paid for their work and are instead giving money to these
But they're still doing it in a pro world.
no,
Because
but
these
they're getting paid at least, right?
Yeah. All right.
So that's what we're saying.
So
But
wouldn't it
that's-
just be
okay.
so wouldn't it just be more unfair that they're paying for their own, so they're getting their own money and they're still paying for
They're
But they're
paying
getting
even more
paid.
money.
Yeah, but
We're saying that they're getting paid.
They are getting
But they could-
money.
That's okay.
whatever.
Your question.
Your question.
You have a question? I thought you had.
All right then.
Okay,
if you guys don't have a
No,
question.
we have a question. We have a
Okay,
question.
perfect.
In the status quo, are these high prospects not going to these richer schools so they can get bigger NIL deals?
They are, but don't you agree that if you have the option between if you were getting paid, wouldn't you go to a job that lets you pay more
But
than
they're
a
already
job?
going to these.
Yeah,
But-
they-
No, but the can I,
Good.
yeah, but the problem will just be worse. Okay, because now that these bigger schools have so now in status quo, athletes aren't getting paid, right? And then in a pro world, athletes have the opportunity to be paid, and these schools have the opportunity to recruit these athletes from smaller schools to bigger schools
Because
with more money.
they
Is it-
have these smaller schools also have lower
Yeah.
tuition costs, and there's so many factors that come into picking college, not just money. But money becomes such a big factor when athletes are being
Okay,
paid.
but there's no good athlete that will choose a D2 school over a
smaller
D1
school, as they will be getting more
But like if
greater money
if
in
an athlete's
NIL
coming
deals.
from
Yeah,
a
that's-
low income
that's the
family,
point.
don't you agree that it would come from? They would choose wherever they get the best deal, as into like including
Yes.
tuition and everything.
That's what's
Is it crossover?
No.
They're currently going to these bigger schools, so they get greater NIL deals. Are they? Are
Okay,
they
all
not?
right. We're saying the problem will be exemplified,
We're
and
just
will be
gonna say-
further.
Yeah, I don't think you understood our argument.
Still not good. Still not good.
Should we do it again?
No, I think, like,
During the resolution, colleges will cut sports. We have already seen it when they face financial struggles, and we will see it again. We are talking 95% of athletes facing loss of opportunities and facing extinction in their sports positions because of affirming the resolution, and we cannot let that happen. Their only response to this is that these non-revenue generating sports don't have to be paid, but that is not the resolution. The resolution talks about college athletes as a whole. Now, let's talk about our second contention. We tell you that the rich schools will get richer. They will get bigger as they are able to attract higher athletes, and their only response is that is non-unique. But we're telling you this problem will be exemplified. We give you direct evidence showing that this will happen, and D2 and D3 schools could be shut down completely. Their only response to this is that we don't have evidence, but we provide you evidence, so therefore this argument can be disregarded. Now let's talk about their case. So their first contention is about poverty. However, they drop how this will be paid. We tell you that to get every student out of poverty, they have to be paid at least $15,000, the poverty line. Then you multiply that by the 525,000 student athletes. That is, the NCAA would have to pay $7.8 billion, and we give you the stat that in 2023 they only had $1.3 billion in gross revenue. That is before taxes and any kind of cuts to the lavish expenses they're talking about. Second, their contention on mental health. This problem will be exemplified, and they provide no response to this. Their only argument is that death is worse than money, and I agree, but the problem is this problem will be worse as these students will not only spend it on drugs and alcohol, but also would face more financial stress because of the pressure put by paying them. Therefore, when weighing, only one contention case flows through, and that is ours. Their impacts are inaccessible, and therefore we encourage a negative ballot. How was that?
it was flow, like, again, right, like, you made it a better argument, like, everything was coming together, but still there is, like, if you were to really impress me, I couldn't see why I would vote for you unless I hear them, right? Like, without, like, sometimes, like, your arguments are so compelling that I would just go, okay, like, whatever the pro side is, yeah, this is why I'm going to vote. Like, okay, you're going to cut the programs, here are the like, I would have given some numbers, right? Here are where, like, when somebody has to pay, like, these are the programs that have been cut, like, these are the sports that have been there, these are schools that have been cut, right? I didn't see that, right? Like, you can say that, right? The other one is mental health, right? Like, I didn't see anything concrete saying that, like, okay, their mental health impact is basically, like, not solvent, right? Like, I didn't see that. You said that, but, like, I couldn't tell, like, okay, why is that not solvent? Like, why is that not an impact at all? But, like, the flow and everything, like, it really sounded good. Like, I think I was looking forward to hear it. Like, as you're speaking it, I was really, like, yeah, she should speak more, I could hear more. I could keep on hearing you, that's.
You were engaged.
Like, basically, you've been, like, nicely flowing through your argument, that's what I was trying to say. I think you guys need to be very clear, like, I think the question, like, what I've seen is teams are like Harvard and even in Shrewsbury, like I've been judging the varsity ones, that's super clear, like boom, boom, boom. Yeah, you guys are ready, Mike, and the clock starts or the timer starts on the first row, that's how you need to be. And finish it, right? Like every second counts. And you need to time your like all this speak time that you had.
Very good.
First, I'm gonna extend our responses to their case, frontline, and then in their case, they repeatedly stated their impact of 95% of these lower revenue sports students facing extinction, and that many of these programs will be cut. But as we stated before, these schools are getting $15.8 billion in revenue, and only 18.2% is going to these students. And additionally, 35% is a salary to these coaches, and 18% is spent on lavish facilities. So, as we stated before, if these were cut back, these coaches can decrease their salary and pay for these students' salaries, which would greatly help them and get our impacts that we stated. Additionally, we stated that John Harbaugh said he would take a pay decrease to help pay for his student athletes.
Look at me.
John Harbaugh said he would pay for his student athlete. He would take a pay decrease to pay for his student athletes. Additionally, this resolution does not say that these colleges do not have to pay for all of these athletes, and these lower revenue sports that aren't making money will not have to be paid for. Thus, they can't reach their impacts, as there's no need to cut these programs. Additionally, their second contention of these students going to these bigger schools is non-unique, as this is already occurring, as these students are going to these higher prospects are going to these bigger schools to get these NIL deals and the fame that they will be receiving. So this is already happening, so it's non-unique, and the problems won't be exemplified, as this exact thing is already happening, and they will be getting money from going to these bigger schools through NIL, so it's completely non-unique. Additionally, as we stated before, only 2% of these students go pro. So they require this money to get them out of poverty and reach our impacts. And this money, as shown before, has greatly helped mental health. And in our case, we stated that these students do not have the time to get a job, so they cannot make any money any other way. So they won't be able to get out of poverty, and they won't have the money, which the money will help their mental health. Additionally, as our card states that these students are from low-income homes, which you stated was not true, and we outweigh on lives, as this mental health is causing many deaths, which is much more impactful, and bringing these students out of poverty has a much greater and far-reaching impact than any of your impacts. Thus, we urge a pro ballot.